earn more money but too busy to start a side hustle? Do it the right way and teach your money to make more money for yourself, even when you're asleep. Dale Corpuz will show you just how here on the School of Cashflow. With his entrepreneurial mindset and extensive experience in real estate and finance, Dale will help you become a responsible, strategic, and passionate passive real estate investor. Learn how you can increase your earnings or find more ways to make money, only here on the School of Cashflow.
Good afternoon and welcome to the School of Cashflow Podcast. I'm the host, Dale Corpuz. So one of my colleagues introduced me to my guest today, and I'm excited to bring him on today's episode. He wears many hats as a real estate investor. He also owns his own real estate investing company, property management company, and he's able to juggle all that with his multiple kids and his wife. His name is Nick Stageberg. Here's a little bit more about Nick. Nick and his wife, Dr. Elaine Stageberg, parents of 4 children, the owners of Black Swan real estate investment and property management company. Their portfolio is now over 800 doors with more than 290 million in assets under management. Cool thing about Nick and Elaine is that they reached financial freedom in the 30s and they help others to do the same. Black Swan has delivered some exceptional returns to their investors with a unique investor-focused private equity funds with no fees whatsoever. They do 100% return of capital before any splits occur. I would love to hear more about that. And Nick and Elaine are values-driven, socially conscious investors donating at least 5% of their profits to the charity. That's awesome. So Nick, without further ado, let's jump right into this. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Dale?
I'm excellent. So for my audience that doesn't know you, whereabouts in the world are you located?
We're in Rochester, Minnesota. So southeastern Minnesota, about an hour from Minneapolis, St. Paul.
I'm wearing I just told you right before I started recording this that I'm wearing a jacket right now in California because it's on the colder side. It's like, I'm curious, how's the weather out over there?
It's been snowing for about the last 24 hours straight. That's just how the climate is here. So Here's the funny thing. Minnesotans spend more hours per year outdoors than any other state except Colorado. So you get good gloves and good boots, and you go out and you ski and snowboard, and you just people are very outdoorsy here.
No, that's really cool. I mean, are you into a lot of, is skiing, snowboarding pretty big out of there, or like what?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a very nice ski resort, 10 minutes from my house, literally, lots of small niche ski, it's not resorts, but there's a chairlift and a couple of mountains, and just everyone gets out and about. You just go out, and every weekend there's something downtown. So actually the Saturday after Thanksgiving at one of my apartment buildings, it's like a local tradition. It's the former City Hall of Rochester, and Santa Claus gets stuck on the roof.
Yeah.
And the fire department gets called. They have to get Santa Claus down with a ladder truck. And then there's a little lighting of the, Christmas tree for the city. And then there's all sorts of winter vendors, you get coffee and hot cocoa, and they'll do ice skating downtown. And so that's just a typical Minnesotan. There's always something going on every weekend. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, they do an ice palace. They'll just go make a castle out of ice blocks, and you just go hang out and do snowball fights and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Stuff for everyone.
I was telling you right before we started this episode that I just realized we're both in the same mastermind, Go Abundance. It's how long have you been in that group? And I mean, tell me, what has it done for you?
Yeah, so August 2022, I guess, was about when I joined Go Abundance. So I've done, I'm in Tony Robbins Platinum right now. I do performance coaching with a couple different, I don't know what to call it, specialized coaches in my industry. So I do probably about 25% of my time doing mindset work and coaching and stuff. And I've really enjoyed Go Abundance a lot. There's definitely Tony Robbins, for example, is pure kind of mindset. And then I'd say Go Abundance is, there's definitely a mindset component, but it's a group of really just competent entrepreneurs, operators. Everyone there is doing something, and you have a lot you can collaborate on, having trouble hiring and retaining employees, or having trouble trimming expenses, or, hey, I need a software system for my property management company or my construction management company. Today in one of the like GoBundance chat rooms I'm in, we were talking about putting solar panels on top of our apartment buildings. And there's like one guy who owns a solar company, another guy who like can tell you how to buy all those solar panels wholesale. And, just it's a fascinating group that's very well connected, and just it seems like someone has a connection to just about everything in that group.
Yeah, it's a really good sounding board to throw out ideas, to get questions to. It's a really good social network. I've made so many, friends, and that have also turned into business partners as well. And it's just been pretty amazing. I joined December 2020. So I'm approaching my my what is my 2-year mark already. It's like it's been great. It's been great.
We have our whole private equity fund to a certain extent because of GoBundance. So one of my mentors is Christian Mack, and he kind of taught us everything we needed to know. He kind of shook me by the shoulders and said, "Hey, like, how are you doing all this in individual vehicles?" So we had like 25 deals under contract when I first met Christian, all in different vehicles. He's like, no, you need to make a private equity fund and put it into like, buckets basically. And, Daniel Casey is he leads the multifamily microtribe in GoBundance. He's one of our business partners in the most recent fund that we have. So lots of very tangible outcomes as a result of my participation.
Got it. That's cool. Christian Mack comes from the tech space because he did I know that he was promoting the Lotus Fund.
That's right. Yeah, we actually are doing a special purpose vehicle for him. So we have a tech fund that's a special purpose vehicle raising money for Lotus. And I did 15 years in enterprise software before doing real estate. So Christian and I had a really good kind of connection from that, shared background there. There's a lot of real estate people in GoBundance, but there's a lot of just different diverse backgrounds that it's a good network to be able to draw from.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do a lot of different businesses, but a lot of like I see most people end up whether they have their other vertical type of business, or whatnot, a lot of them are investing in real estate. Which is actually why I created this podcast. But I wanted to ask, now that I know that you have a tech background, can I ask you this? It's like, so are you still connected to tech, or did you kind of fully break that off and just go full time in real estate? Or I want to kind of know how that all kind of came about, from the transition, your background.
So tech is pretty interesting. It's a really high burnout profession. People, they don't go the distance in tech. It's just not how the culture works, unfortunately. I did I have a bachelor's in computer science, bachelor's in ministry. My first job out of college, I worked for Dell, which is a fantastic organization to work for fresh out of college. They walk you through your firing, your first day on the job, and say, if you can make it a year here, that's the equivalent of like a lifetime in any other, employer. Worked, minimum 62 and a half hours a week, 7 days a week, nights, weekends. And I made it 9 months, which is like a long run for them. I learned a tremendous amount, but just your typical just pressure cooker tech employer. Then I did a tech startup, and over the course of 9 years, went from 13 million in venture capital to 100 million in private equity sales. That was an enterprise software company that did medical banking software. And then I did a startup for the Mayo Clinic, a software development startup for the Mayo Clinic. Just like how Amazon and Facebook, they are kind of too big to innovate, so they sponsor innovation organizations underneath their umbrella. Mayo did the same thing and said, hey, we're spending hundreds of millions a year on all these software development consultancy contracts with outside vendors, and not only does that money leave the enterprise, but that knowledge leaves the enterprise. So let's keep that money and that knowledge in house. So we created an organization that would then compete with outside vendors for these software development contracts and consulting engagements. And we went from just a handful of people to 13 teams of engineers that I led over the course of 3 years. And we were doing about a third of all new development for the whole enterprise there. So that would have been another 9-figure exit if that was its own independent concern. But just really cool getting to serve. Like we got to literally make software that saved people's lives. I have a lot of fun stories I could share about that, just working on heavy particle accelerator and echocardiogram machines, and it's just wild stuff where that's the only environment where you can kind of work on that kind of stuff. So that was kind of my whole tech journey. And along the way on the side, I did research like, how do you, let's say you win the lottery in tech, you have this unicorn startup or a couple of them. How do you take the proceeds from that and not end up like someone who wins the lottery and a year later they're bankrupt? Like, what do you do with that? Because you have this big tax problem, you get this giant check. Like, what do you do? And all my research said invest in real estate, and in tech you do a proof of concept, right? So you do a small experiment and you iterate towards success. So my wife and I, we bought a house for $35,000. And it had 4 walls and almost a roof. We did a full sweat equity remodel on it. My wife was miscarrying our first child as she's installing 1,000 square feet of tile in this house, which is just filthy, backbreaking, laborious kind of work. And we bought it for 35, put about 17 into it, so we were 52 all in. When we were done, it appraised, I think, for like 90,000 or something. And the wildest thing was we did a cash out refi. This was before Burr was like a word or whatever. That was the business model that we kind of came up with on our own. I remember getting a check. We got a check for, I don't know, I think it was like $59,000 or something for our cash out refi. So we'd gotten all of our money back out plus some, and we still had this cash flowing property. And I just thought, like, everything I do for the rest of my life has to be like, I have to figure out how to get as many of these checks as possible. This is the most magic check, I've ever gotten. And a lot of people get rich in tech. I mean, I did okay, but the vast majority of people, they don't get that big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And at the end of the day, I had to really make my own way. I ended up making a lot of other people very wealthy in tech, and not so much myself. And I ended up making way more money in real estate than I made in tech. And so one year we bought 1 house, the next year we bought 2 houses, the next year we bought 4 houses. And after a while, we had enough that we were financially free and could step back from our career in tech. And I still love being in touch with tech, and I love doing this private equity fund with Christian Mack, doing enterprise software. It's fun to stay in the business and stay in touch with people and stuff. But we do full-time real estate, and that's when we really started serving others, serving passive investors, and that it's kind of funny. So the last day of my day job, it just happened to be the day before a Tony Robbins event. I'd never heard of Tony Robbins before. Yeah. And my wife got a free ticket from someone to one of his events, to an Unleash Power Within. That was in July 2019. And Tony has a way of getting you all jacked up and, set crazy, amazing goals and stuff. So I was retired for about 48 hours. And that's when kind of the current iteration of our business was born, because the whole way along, people would say, hey, we really like what you're doing. Like, they'd see us, swinging a hammer on a sweat equity rehab after hours, after our day job. And we actually had to make a metaphor to turn people away. We'd say, we've got a bunch of kids. I've got 4 kids, love raising our kids, but we don't want to open a daycare. And Tony really pointed out the selfishness of that. And basically he says, how can you give, how can you serve, how can you create the biggest impact possible? And we said, we want to create this financial freedom thing that we've created for ourselves for as many other people as we can. And we want to help as many people along the way as we can. So like our private equity fund, there's no fees whatsoever, which is really kind of unheard of in the industry. We don't get any profit whatsoever until our investors have gotten a full return of capital. 5% of our profit from the fund goes to our staff and a profit share. 5% of our profit from the fund goes to charity. We actually just built a school here recently. We found an abandoned 40,000 square foot office building, and over the summer did sweat equity rehab, tearing up carpet and painting walls with teachers and staff members and stuff. And so now there's this 40,000 square foot school that exists that didn't exist before, with some of those charitable dollars. Answering that question of like, how can we create the most crazy impact, huge impact possible? That's the thing that it gets me up in the morning and gets me excited to go buy something new, to have another call with a investor, to just serve any way I can.
Yeah, you're really coming from a place of contribution. And to your point, though, I interview a lot of operators, syndicators, and whatnot, and your model is very unique. I mean, when I read the fact that you don't charge any fees, I wanted to, even talk to you about that. It sounds like, my understanding then is like you probably don't have any. Is it simple? There's no preferred returns. There's no waterfalls. It's just, It's just an equity. It's just a simple equity split after the 100% of capital is returned. Does that sound about right? Yeah, it just sounds. It sounds too simple.
Right. I'll
you
go
know what I mean?
a 15-minute conversation with someone, and they're like trying to find the catch, right? It sounds
that's the word.
And maybe that is actually kind of a problem, is people think it's too good to be true. But I mean, being very transparent with you, we will eventually make a lot of money at it. When our equity split kicks in. And I think Amazon did pretty well running a break even for 10 years. So in the tech industry, it's very normal to have this type of business model. It's only in the real estate industry that everyone, gets their payment on the front end of the deal. Like it's kind of crazy. I feel like how, you invest in a syndication, and that, that general partner, they might have this like 3-4% acquisition fee on the front end of the deal. So before anyone's making any money, like they're getting probably the largest chunk of compensation they'll get in the entire deal. That's a pretty big disalignment of interest. So our model, it's, we call it the lemonade stand model. Like if you open a lemonade stand with your kid, it might be this exact model, but there's no pref or catch-up pref or waterfall or escalating splits or anything. Just you get all the profit from the deal until you get your money back, and then it's a 50-50 split after that. And that's all there is to it. So we think it's a very favorable model for the investors. Maybe it is too good to be true, but selfishly, like we've built a portfolio of over $1/3 billion in assets under management, and we will make a lot of money from that at some point in the future when when all that capital has been returned to the investors. And I think we'll be our future selves will thank our present selves for that. And there's just a lot of good we can do along the way. So we really like the model, and this might sound a little bit crazy, but my goal, are you familiar with the Warren Buffett pledge?
I am not. Could teach it to me.
So Warren Buffett created the pledge, which is, if you're a billionaire, you sign this pledge that says, I will give it all away. This money is not my own. This is a gift from God or the universe, whatever you believe in. And I have to pay it forward. I have a moral duty to give it away. And Warren kind of made it not okay to be a billionaire that just keeps it all. And I believe he changed capitalism permanently and bent the moral arc of capitalism towards justice in a very significant way. And if I get my goal, we will do the exact same thing. So 5% of our profit from the fund goes to charity. What if every single private equity fund had to have a 5% give back? What if the first question that every LP asked a syndicator fund manager, what if that first question was, what's your give back? What good have you done? What difference have you made? Why should I give you my money? Who cares about the return? What impact is there? That should be the first question on everyone's mind. And imagine what good could be done. I'm not saying what that money needs to go to do, whatever has had the biggest impact on their life, wherever they feel like they can make the biggest impact. And here's the crazy thing, like the LPs love it. I mean, the GPs love it. Like everyone loves it. It just needs to be made normal. And all, like, a 5% difference is not going to have a material impact on returns. But imagine if Blackstone, imagine if everybody was just giving away 5%. It's a small enough number that's not really going to change anything, but big enough that if trillions of dollars are running through that 5%, I mean, we could rebuild every school in the United States, not just one, 40,000 square foot office building. We could, we're renovating a kitchen for a homeless shelter in our community. We could renovate every homeless shelter in the whole United States. Like just imagine the good that could be done if just this tiny little change happened, that it was not okay to put all this money in a big pile and none of it gets given back. Like that would be my, I mean, I hope the hair on your neck stands up a little bit when you hear this. Like it's a small idea, the Buffett pledge is a small idea. Like who cares? Like what happens to your money if you're dead? Like you're dead. It's never yours to begin with. So you have to give it away. Like if you're out there raising billions of dollars in capital, like you have a moral obligation to give just a small portion of it away.
No, I love that. I don't hear anybody talking this way. I mean, it's just like one of you makes you different. It's like, I love the fact that you're helping people, others, you're teaching others to fish, and you're also better in the community of you're just better in the community overall and leaving your own legacy. And speaking of the charities, it's like, do you have certain charities that you continuously donate to for that 5% that you were mentioning?
Yeah. So again, iteration and proof of concept, we're figuring that part out. We have some some ideas about what we're going to do with this money, and we've got a little bit of it so far. So, for example, we have a course. It's a pay what you can model. 100% of the revenue of that goes to charity. We've raised a healthy 6 figures from that, and a good chunk of that is what went towards making the school a reality. That has been just so cool to be actively involved in that project, and that, like, just writing a check, I think that's not a very compelling proposition for most people, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a visionary, if you're a creator, like you want to make a thing happen. Turns out running an operational charity, an operational foundation is really complicated from like a tax compliance perspective. Mm-hmm. So if you're a charity that just gives the money away, that's a lot simpler. So that's the type of charity we have right now, but we do get very involved in giving that money away. So you get our help along with the money, but we can't actually be the ones that spend the money, to make a thing happen. So with the school, we built a playground. That was the most kind of capital intensive thing, because we got, sweat equity for, flooring and paint and stuff, but we brought in the professionals to build a playground. Figure kids are going to be climbing all over that. We should probably do that one right. And we've experimented with probably about 10 or 15 different causes now, and we're just going to kind of give away a little bit more. I just read the book Titan, the book on Rockefeller, and learning, Rockefeller kind of invented modern philanthropy, and seeing kind of his trial and error, the things that worked. Like, giving away money is really hard. Like as an entrepreneur, I want to see every penny used to its like maximum potential. Mm-hmm. But a lot of charities aren't run very efficiently, and when you give that money away, like, you have no ability to necessarily influence the outcome directly. So you get what you get. So I don't have a magic answer to that question yet, but we specifically do love supporting playgrounds, housing opportunities, especially for women and children, and entrepreneurship education. Those are the 3 kind of big causes that we really like to support from a high level perspective that are enshrined in our family foundation.
Another thing that just jumps out at me that I wanted to ask you about is, you're one of the few people where, like, I see, you're doing this with your wife together and growing this business together. Have you guys always been, was this the very first business that you guys worked together on, or you guys have been, worked together as business partners before as well? Because it doesn't always work out. I mean, I'm a realtor, and like a lot of real estate teams, the husband and wife, they end up getting a divorce. Yeah, for example. It's just like, I'm just curious, just from a work standpoint, because that dynamic it has its own challenges, but you're able to make it work. It's like, I'm just trying to understand if you even had a working relationship with your wife like that even before you started Black Swan.
Yeah. So that is the number one question that my wife and I get when we get on a phone call with someone. So
it's just it's rare to see in the space.
Yeah, we actually did we hosted we did a talk for GoBundance Ascend last Wednesday. So if anyone has access to that content, they're welcome to check it out, where my wife and I just got on a call and just said, hey, like, who here has challenges working with their spouse, or just being in close proximity to their spouse at all times? Because a lot of people are doing work from home, where you're both working, but you're not working together, but you're working together. And when people talk to us on the phone, that's kind of the doorknob question. That's the thing that they ask when that was the real burning question all along. Is do you actually really love each other that much, or how do you not murder each other? Being together, work together 24 hours a day, pretty much.
That really is my question. So it's like, how do you not kill each other?
Yeah. So the fact is,
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally understand. You never have a mediocre day. Most people, they might spend 2 or 3 times more hours in the office with their coworkers than they do with their spouse. It's really sad, but that's the fact of the matter. You might get home at 6 o'clock, go to bed at 9. You only spent like 3 hours with your spouse. You spent 9 hours at the office or whatever. So you really need to lean into it, because you're either going to have a really good day or you're going to have a really bad day. But you get to choose. We talked about a few different kind of tools on our call with Ascend. One of the my favorite concepts is the concept of a 3-dimensional or level 3 relationship. So there's 3 levels of relationship. So in a level 1 relationship, it's egocentric. It's all about me and how can my needs be met. Lots of great times to have a level 1 relationship. Like if you're at a bank interacting with a bank teller, like this interaction is about me, and that's okay. That's socially appropriate. There's a level 2 relationship, which is a quid pro quo. If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and it's all about equality. And I would say, particularly in modern America, this is considered kind of like the paragon of relationship. But I think that's probably kind of short-sighted because there's a whole other level out there if you want to discover it, and that's a level 3 or 3-dimensional relationship. And when you're in a level 3 relationship, your partner's needs are your needs. You will not stop. You will not give up until those needs are met. Their emotions are your emotions, and you take full responsibility for the feelings of your partner. Now, in Eastern culture, that is like a pretty normal concept. So the idea of like saving face, and like if in America I hurt your feelings, that's your fault that you have a thin skin. But in Eastern culture, if I hurt your feelings, that's my fault that I failed to take into account your feelings, and I lose face that I offended you. Let me just ask you as a hypothetical. You're driving down the highway, and as you're pulling out of the garage, your wife, who's now seated next to you, said, "Hey, one of the kids left their bike out. Go put it in the garage." Like, whatever, it's gonna be fine. No, we're late. We need to get going. And now it's like 5, 10, 15 minutes have passed, and your wife is silently fuming that you didn't listen to her, that you didn't put that damn bike in the garage. She's checking the weather report. She's looking at the 14-day forecast. She's trying to think of the most deliberate but passive-aggressive way this can come up again. Hey, we really need to go home. I think we left the stove on. No, she really just wants to put that bike in the garage. How happy can you truly be if your partner is furious? Like in that moment, you might be feeling almost a little smug of like, I can't believe how petty they are, that they're upset about this silly thing that I disagree with. But really, truly, how happy can you be if they're not happy?
I wouldn't be happy. I mean, because I could see another fight. Like, yeah, this is a fight brewing. Right. So it's just like I'd be uneasy at that point.
So the reality of the situation is that her feelings are your feelings, that her needs are your needs, and you hold yourself back. You hold your happiness back by pretending that her needs are her needs and your needs are your needs. And the way our creators wired us, it's the wildest thing. But when you will go to the ends of the earth to meet someone else's needs, your needs will always be met. Life supports that which supports life. And an elated partner who feels like their every possible need has been delighted, they are a delightful person to be in the presence of. Like, they are going to make sure that you too are delighted, and they will not give up until all of your needs have been met. But you can't fake it.
Yeah.
You have to actually care. And you can't be too overt about it. You can't be too heavy-handed about it. Yeah. So when your partner says, "Hey, could you put the bike in the garage before we leave? Put the car in park." Honey, I actually really want to go right now because I feel like we're late, but I know this is important to you, and your needs are my needs. So I'm going to put the bike in the garage. And here's the thing: you can't be a jerk about it, and you can't be mad about it. You can't be trying to win points. That's back in the level 2 land. That's back to equality. No. Just because you want this, I want this.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that I can do right now while I'm up? Can I get you a drink? Whatever. Like clearly you don't care about us being a little bit late. This is more important to you, so this is more important to me. You can't fake it. If you try to fake it, like the exact opposite of that desired outcome is going to occur. But just living in a level 3 relationship, there's a lot of things I could speak to. And, if I was talking to someone on the phone, I have a bachelor's degree in ministry. So talk to people a lot about this kind of stuff over the years is something I just enjoy connecting with people on. I don't really talk about the weather or sports. I just say, hey, how's your relationship with your kids, or how are things going with your spouse or your parents? Like, the relationship that gives you the most juice, like, how's that going? Because nothing else really matters. This is the thing that trumps everything else. Like, if you're crushing it in business, if your health is an 11 out of 10, if you just ran a triathlon and won the lottery, but your marriage is in the toilet, like the stuff isn't going to feel good.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to fill your thoughts is your relationship with your partner, and vice versa. The whole world could be burning down, but if you have the undying love and devotion and worship and support of your partner, I mean, you can walk through fire for them with a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing that gives you the most juice. So I love working with my partner. You know, it took years for me to love it. It's something I had to work at. And but now today it's something that I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm really glad that my path was guided to this course. You know,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, can I ask, you guys have a complementary skill set, I take it then? You're able to divvy up the tasks of, your businesses?
Yeah, I would say so. We're both, my wife is a lion. She is a very strong, very brilliant person. She, as a physician, trained at the Mayo Clinic, in parallel to my kind of tech career. And then it's almost kind of silly. It's very unexpected that we ended up in real estate. That's just, it's the thing that just makes the most money. It has the largest number of zeros behind it that most people interface with on a day-to-day basis. So it's, I find real estate's kind of the most accessible path to wealth for 99% of people. Most people can't be the next Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, but most people can invest in real estate and can make way above average returns and reach financial freedom that way. My wife has skills that are, she's a psychiatrist and I have a ministry degree. So we have, she's a much, much more well-trained version of a somewhat similar skill set there. But she's certainly much more sensing, much more thinking, kind of typical masculine, feminine dichotomies there. She's far more risk averse and I'm much more risk friendly. And for years, I fought my wife. I thought she was trying to shut me down and, resist the place I wanted to go. But thank God she's always been kind of my chief risk officer and kind of had veto power over our real estate deals, because I probably would have bankrupted us about 10 times over by now if she wasn't there trying to protect me, So, and again, it's just a question of perspective. That's probably the second most common question that I get when I get on with someone is, hey, I really want to invest in real estate, but my partner doesn't want to. That was actually the call I did earlier today. So the person, asked, how are you're not really that in love with your spouse, right? And then, how do I twist my partner's arm to get them to go along with investing in real estate? And again, it just comes down to meeting needs. So what's the difference between financial freedom and financial security? Because most people who are dominant masculine energy, they will articulate, kind of that financial dream as financial freedom. Mm-hmm. But most people who are dominant feminine energy, they will articulate it as financial security. Now, I would argue they're the exact same thing, but I'll get on a call with a husband and wife partner and they'll say, no, I want freedom. No, I want security. Well, are you sure you don't actually want the exact same thing? But if you try to communicate with your partner on your own terms instead of theirs, you're gonna talk past each other all day. And when you see the reality that you actually want the same thing, all of a sudden there's no resistance and everything is easy, like effortless. It goes from this push, this friction to a pull where we're guided in the same direction. Yeah. Oh, you want security? I want security too. I want so much security that we never have to worry or work ever again. That our family is set for life. Is that what you want too? But when you say, no, you're cramping my style, I want to let it all ride on XYZ crypto. Well, that's probably not going to play on their desire for security too well. And it's probably for the best that they're shutting you down. That's the brutal truth. Like your partner, 99% of the time, there are righteous drives behind what they want when they disagree with your path. And there is a third alternative that will make both of you happy. And it's probably a better course than either of the options you currently perceive.
Okay. And I just thought it was really interesting when you just mentioned that very first property you bought. You guys were both working it together. I mean, I think I heard you correctly. She was installing flooring herself, for that matter. And usually a lot of times I'm just making an observation. I don't see couples typically jump into real estate together, getting both of their hands dirty on the first project. I usually see a lot of times the guy doing it, and then later on, if their spouse sees that it made money, then they'll bring the spouse on. But she was with you from the very first property, it sounds like.
Absolutely. So again, think of a way to align your incentives. So my wife, I think she'd tell you, she was very fearful about this first investment, that we would lose a lot of money. And Tony Robbins says, don't let your fear hold you back. Let your fear drive you. Let it propel you. Learn to dance with your fear. The greatest passion in life comes in the dance between what we want most and what we fear most. If you can learn to live on that edge and dance with your fear, you can do crazy stuff. So, it would be easy for me to say, okay, babe, you stay home. I'm going to throw this project up on my shoulders and haul it across the finish line on my own. I'm going to show you. And then one of us is going to have a big chip on our shoulder for the rest of our marriage after this. Like, it's not a very enlightened approach. And yet that's what most people do. And so, I said, I am so grateful that you want to support my vision. Are there any ways you see here where we can, optimize the risk, to make this as safe as possible, to minimize the chance that we're going to lose money? Let me be clear. We did not actually have $52,000 when we did that first deal. So we had $35,000. That's what we spent on the house. And then we're like maxing out our credit cards, buying materials and stuff. So she was really humoring me here with this project. And thank God we got our cash out refi. It would have been we actually had this thing, we call it the February challenge, because we just straight up ran out of money. We bought the property in November. And then when we got to February, we had like maxed out every credit card. And we didn't have like money for food. So we were just like, okay, we're just going to eat all the food that's in the house. We're not going to do any discretionary spending. So every February since then, we have our February challenge of how do we not buy more food? How do we not take vacations? How do we just live on what we have? Just to remember, it's like our Passover or something like that. I don't know. In any case, I really tried to draw my wife in and said, how would you like to help make sure that this is the safest possible investment? Do you want to come help work on it? Would that put you at ease to be involved in it, to see the progress day to day? And she's like, I guess it would. Do I need to work or could I just hang out with you? And I'm like, well, you can just hang out with me if you want, because she likes hanging out with me. I don't know why, but she really loves me, which I really appreciate. And I knew she would really appreciate being included and invited. Even if she didn't come, just being invited would make all the difference to her. And when she got there, she, like I said, she is a warrior. She's a lion, and there's no way she's just going to like watch me work. So she was there laying tile with me, doing everything, painting and doing the most grueling possible work you could imagine. And, I think we had about 100 trips to Home Depot on that deal. So she did those. How much better does that story feel than if it was just me doing it on my own to spite my wife, to prove to her that we could make it? Like it would be a token victory, right? There'd be ash in my mouth, and we got to do it together and share some crazy stories. And there was no heat, there's no working furnace, so we just had halogen work lights. Like it was like 30 degrees outside, and it was so cold that we couldn't get the thin set to mix. So we're trying to heat it up with these work lights, and just funny stories from these really challenging times, because we did it together, because we leaned into each other and meeting each other's needs. And thank God we did, because today, like, I come home and I'm like, hey babe, we just got a $27 million deal under contract today that we're working on. And she gets to be excited about that and not fearful about that, because she's been with me every step of the way. In fact, if I had not, made sure all of her needs were met, if I just said, hey, this real estate thing's my thing, medicine's your thing, stay out of my thing, like that would have held us back in our growth so much, because I'd have to come home and explain to her why it's not crazy for us to do a $27 million deal, but because she's in the business every day and she sees the amazing team we're building and the amazing investors we serve and everything, then it works much better. And in fact, Elaine, she does pretty much all of our fundraising. She's an investor, she's a physician, she has a ton of thought leadership in that space. Many of our investors are physicians or other, medical professionals. So the joke is she raises all the money and I spend all the money. So it's a ton of fun. She's kind of my board of directors. She's like, what the hell are you doing with my investors' money today? We have a lot of fun with it. If we didn't, it would be really hard for us to grow the way we've grown.
Okay, I got it. Thank you for sharing all of that. I was very, very curious, and sounds like a lot of people are curious too, since a lot of people are asking about that dynamic. Yeah. I wanted to go back, and so I wanted to ask more so about, your company. So like, what is it like asset class and areas and whatnot? So what is the main focus? Is it detached single family, multifamily, something else?
Yeah, so we do all residential real estate.
Okay.
We do rehabs, so buying existing distressed properties and doing value add, renovating them, improving the management, increasing revenue, reducing expenses, and also ground up construction. So we have a $45 million ground up construction project right now, building a subdivision of build to rent townhomes, but mostly renovating existing stuff. We've got, I think, a little over 300 million assets under management right now, about a third of $1 billion. And it's all, single family, multifamily, residential real estate of one variety or another. We've looked at other asset classes, but I as a technologist, I see residential real estate as being some of the most disruption resistant. I wouldn't even say real estate, just across any asset class. I think just about the safest place you can put money in the entire world economy is U.S. residential real estate. I never would have predicted COVID, for example, as a disruptive force, but it really accelerated a bunch of trends that were already underway of, office kind of on the way out, retail kind of on the way out, a lot of commercial, asset classes kind of struggling there. And, residential real estate killed it. And we've had a very lucrative time in our investing career here as a result of that. Again, not that we ever predicted a pandemic, we just looked at all the forces at work in the marketplace and saw that, it's more and more expensive to build. Replacement cost is constantly going up in residential real estate. It's harder and harder to, even get zoning approvals and permits and stuff for new residential units everywhere in the country. That's a trend that, I don't really see that trend changing anytime soon. Our population is growing throughout the country. And so it's a supply demand thing. And that the value of that real estate in terms of rental rate and also in terms of its resale value, it's going to keep increasing. I don't have a single dial on my dashboard that says otherwise. I don't see a wave of foreclosures coming in the single family world. Prices have gone down maybe 15 or 20% from their absolute peak in multifamily, but that absolute peak was also pretty silly. Their values are probably flat compared to where they were a year ago. And and this is about as worse as it gets in this industry. So we're all in on residential, and we've had a lot of success with that. We do a lot of deep value add projects that other people won't touch. So we talked about ways that we give back with the profits, but how do we get those profits? We treat our tenants with dignity and respect. We think the tenant is the real client here, not the investor. Mm-hmm. We're very self-aware, very conscientious that we are the bleeding edge of gentrification, and we better be making the world a better place to live in the most tangible sense of the word. If we are, potentially dislocating or displacing people, we'll typically buy like a property. Here's an example that might tell you kind of everything you need to know about us and our business model. We recently bought a 100-year-old apartment building in this historic neighborhood. So it's a very prestigious neighborhood. There's, $1 million single family homes right next door. And we bought this apartment building for, I think it was $64,000 a door. So an extraordinarily low price because it's a 100-year-old apartment building that had really never been renovated in that entire time period. And, we bought the building, and in one of the units, there was a woman who, there was drugs and prostitution going on in this unit. And they hadn't paid rent in 2 years, but the previous management group said, oh, there's the COVID eviction moratorium, so we can't evict them. And we said, we're gonna have a conversation with her. So the day after we closed, we did a safety inspection on the unit, walked through the unit. We had to leave and come back with a bucket because we filled up a gallon bucket with drug paraphernalia from this unit. We'd never actually been in the unit prior to closing, and we met with this woman and said, hey, we're removing some safety hazards from the unit. If you do want your personal property back, let us know. And we're legally obligated to return it to you. We'll make sure the police are there when we remand custody of your personal property so that happens appropriately. And by the way, we're going to be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And we're going to be here every day until you're able to find help. We suspect that you're a person who could use some help. We support some organizations that we think could potentially help you. We have no judgment of you. We love you. We want to serve you. And we are sorry that your previous landlord let you down and allowed you to hurt yourself in this way. This does not happen on our watch. Do you understand? And we only had to visit like 2 more times. And she sought help, and she's in drug rehab now. And we, just took care of her, served her as best we could through that process. And then we renovated that unit. We removed all the, safety hazards from that unit, renovated it. In-place rents were $650 a month. It's now $1,200 a month.
Wow.
We bought that building for, less than $70,000 a door. It's probably worth $140,000 a door now. We took this really just awful, dumpy old building and made it this really classy, historic building, rediscovering, refinishing hardwood floors, patching in new floors to match up to the old floors, and totally renovating the kitchens with quartz counters and stainless steel appliances. We had to rewire and replumb the whole building. But when we got done, we had this treasure, this building that you couldn't build it today for 3 times what we have in it, because it's got all stone veneers and it's just a handsome building. So we got to impact people's lives for the better, and we got to create a financial outcome that is, unrivaled. Like most syndicators, they repaint countertops, repaint cabinets, and they have to sell it after a year or two before the rehab wears out.
Yeah.
Like, this building's good for the next 50 years. Like it's set. And we didn't just increase the value of the building by 10% or whatever and make money on the margin. Like, we doubled the value of this building.
Yeah.
So
this was a historic building, you said too, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you kept the architectural integrity of it all too.
Yes.
And just brought it back to life. This sounds amazing.
Yeah. Every deal is different for us, but that's just an example of a deal that we've done. And so that's the asset class we're in. It's residential real estate, but it's really people and
that's a good way to
relationships, and hopefully making the world a better place to live in the most tangible sense of the phrase.
Yeah, I know. I could see, you're being, you're very aware and just making sure that, everything that you deal with, you're looking at how it, like the decision you make and how it affects and how it'll make the world and community get a better place. And I could see that in the way that you talk. So I applaud you for that. A question in terms of geographic location, is it mainly that your real estate projects are they around your area? Are you going, are they outside your area, or a mixture of both?
So mostly in Rochester, Minnesota. We've got a couple of deals in Tacoma, Washington, which kind of by coincidence happens to be on the same latitude line as Rochester, Minnesota, just, on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
But we've got a couple really incredible deals in flight there. We really love the transition story that's at work in Tacoma, Washington, like our most recent deal there, Tenaraville Apartments. It's your typical 1970s workforce housing, but it's 1.6 miles from Point Ruston. So Point Ruston used to be the largest copper smelting facility in the world for half a century, and then it became a EPA Superfund site. You can imagine the just devastating, environmental contamination involved with such a site, and it took a very long time to clean up. And then all of a sudden, there's this 100-acre, 1-mile oceanfront site right on the Sound, and it became this multi-billion-dollar master plan community. So within the period of, maybe 15 years, it went from literally a toxic waste dump to a multi-billion-dollar master plan community. Think about, the impact that has on the surrounding community. That's what's going on throughout all of Tacoma right now as the path of progress kind of moves south from Seattle. So we really love the Tacoma market. We've got a couple really successful deals there. Our property that we just bought that's right next to Point Ruston, we're going to go from probably 24 million to 36 or 40 million in asset value in just a couple of years on that particular project. There's not a lot of places in the country where you can have that kind of delta in value, but there's just such an incredible transition story that's happening in Tacoma right now.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I have some final questions for you.
Fire away.
Yeah. So, what are you excited about in your business right now?
Hiring people, growing. We have 27 full-time employees right now. So at one point I was managing, I think 75 people or something in my most recent career in tech. So I'm accustomed to, to leading a lot of people. In real estate, I think people sometimes pride themselves on like not having any employees, and that's like a badge of honor, which is a little silly to me. Like, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't pride himself on like not having responsibilities, and like we have a team and we're responsible to them, that we're growing the team, and it's our biggest asset by far. We're in the real estate business, but it's really about people, not property. So just hiring and training, just an incredible team. Very few of any of our staff members have any prior real estate experience. Like, one of them is a former military policeman. Another one's a former, she would fix troubled Marriott. So she'd travel around the country, and I think even the world. And if a Marriott was struggling, she would come in and fix it. Lots of skill set that really applies very directly to our business model of turning around apartment buildings, but with like a radically higher level of customer service, a hospitality level of customer service. Whereas sometimes there tends to be kind of a really low level of customer service expectation in the multifamily industry. So just bringing together a really diverse group of people to serve our tenants, to serve our investors, even like in accounting roles, we've just found incredibly exceptional people. So that's certainly the most, I don't know, I'm a big people person, big people development person. We try to take our people like Tony Robbins content and practice mindset. My only key performance indicator, my only KPI in the company is once per week, everyone in the company needs to answer on a scale of 1 to 10, how much energy do they have? How happy are they? And how valued do they feel in their work in the company? And that's my only metric on the whole board. So every week we measure, vacancy and maintenance tickets and all these different key performance indicators. That's my KPI, is how is the team doing? I think if the team is doing great and every other metric on the board is in the toilet, well, things are going to turn around. But if everything else looks great and our team is in the toilet, well, we got some rough times ahead. So that's the thing I'm most excited about right now in the business.
That's awesome. And success. I know it's I like to ask people, what does success mean to you? And you could answer that any way you like.
Living your life in accordance with your values, I would say is success to me. I think when you live a life that's out of step with what you think is right, it's very hard to be happy, fulfilled, feel successful, even if you have all the money or your health is great or your relationship is great or whatever. If you are doing it in a way that's out of step with your values, if you yelled at someone at the office that day and that's just not who you are, like that's going to eat at you, and you're not going to be happy until you make that right. So for me, success is it isn't even necessarily achieving your goal. Really, just making progress to your goal is what makes you happy. It's getting there. It's making that progress happen in a way that's in alignment with your values.
Yep. Any final words or any advice to leave with the audience, for newer investors or even experienced investors?
Yeah, sure. This has been a fun podcast. A conversational. Oh, I think I just unplugged my microphone.
I can still hear you. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. The second microphone here. That was an accidental mic drop moment, I guess.
Little echo, but I could still hear you at the same time. Any final words of advice for either it doesn't matter, either a newer investor or an experienced investor, anything you want to say?
Start small and grow fast and kind of scale infinitely. If you're really hung up on what your next step is, just think of the next most incremental step that you need to take to make progress to your goal. And that's all you need to do. Maybe that's all you need to do all day is I have to make one phone call. I have to, send one email to a broker, to a lender, to a seller, to whatever it is. And you're going to feel good about yourself. I talk to people all the time, big and small, they get stuck in analysis paralysis, or they just make excuses. Like they know what they have to do. I'm feeling kind of sick this week. I was at a Tony Robbins event last week, and sometimes you get like hungover, you pick up a bug or something at the conference. So I'm not at my best. I'm still going to the gym. I have a commitment to myself. I go to the gym 5 days a week. One of the days, all I did was I stretched for 45 minutes. I do a 45-minute workout. But that's my commitment. Is I go to the gym even if I feel like crap. Like that's my commitment. Like I could not lift a weight to save my life, but I'm there, and that's like my next step. Like I'm probably losing ground right now in my health because I'm recovering from this flu or whatever. But just show up for yourself and just take that next step, whatever it is, and I can fall asleep, happy that I quote unquote went to the gym. I took whatever step I had to take to make progress on my health, and even if all I did was stretch for 45 minutes.
Got it. Thank you. So last question, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, so anyone out there, you're welcome to go to meetblackswan.com, meetblackswan.com. There's a link to my calendar, my wife's calendar. If anyone wants to schedule some time with us, they're welcome to reach out. We've got a course. It's a pay what you can model, and 100% of the revenue goes to charity. We lovingly call that the cookbook. So we give away our whole business model. There's over 100 videos there. You can reproduce everything that we give you, the light fixture we put in our rehab, the exact piece of flooring we use, everything. If you read the cookbook and you think that sounds pretty good, but I just want to go to the restaurant, well, that's our private equity fund. Not sure when this podcast goes live, but we do have a fundraise open right now. It's got a few million left. I suspect that might be closed by the time. Do you know when this podcast goes live?
This podcast should probably go live within 2 weeks from now.
Okay, that'll probably still be open then for a couple more weeks, but you can check out our most recent investment opportunity there if anyone wants to get involved. But my calendar's open. If anyone wants to talk about their relationship with their wife or their kids or their health or whatever they're struggling with or want to connect on, I'm here for you. So I probably talk to 3-4 people a day just about whatever, and it's the most fun thing ever. So you go to meetblackswan.com and everyone's welcome to connect with me there.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate your time. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks, Nick, for joining me. It's just like, I will remember this episode. It's just like, I could see, like everything that you're talking about. It's like, you being very socially conscious in real estate and that in the investing space. I've never talked to anybody that talks the way you do. And it's like, I know you rehab and you build houses and whatnot, but I think you do the same thing for people. You rehab and you build people up. So it's just like, I'm just getting all of that from our conversation. And I think that'll stick with me. I love that, how you're putting a lot of educational content out there, just teaching people how to fish for themselves. And it's just, you're doing really good things. So I applaud you for that. I hope to, connect with you in person over at a GoBundance event, by the way.
Yeah.
Person. And to my listeners, feel free to reach out to Nick directly should you have any questions or if you want to, connect with him. And also thanks for checking out this episode of the School of Cashflow. And remember to leave a podcast review on iTunes, as it helps me attract even more great guests like Nick. So until next time, live life abundantly.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the School of Cashflow. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all the tips and tricks you can use to help you on your passive investing journey. In the meantime, you may visit www.cashflowschoolpodcast.com for more great episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time.